Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 25th, hopefully, of July. I want to talk about grooming the bride or the grooming of children. Again, there's a higher principle that is creating a picture in this world at the moment. And I think over time, if we work on a spiritual principle, the pictures will become more and more graphic. It will become more and more physical until we actually get it. But we should get it on the higher principle. The materialistic is just there to show us what it is we're asking for. Anyway, I was reading again. I was reading again this verse in the Bible about as in the days of Noah. Of course, that's what everybody says. It is as in the days of Noah. And it says they ate and they drank and they married and they were given in marriage. Of course, the pastors are, falling over themselves, saying how this was all very sinful. So they weren't just eating and drinking, they were in full-on gluttony and permanently drunk, because somehow the flood had to be our fault. So it had to be something we're doing wrong. Couldn't have been God, that did the wrong thing. But anyway, it is actually the marriage and the marrying and being given in marriage that I want to talk about, because that's where the grooming of the bride comes into it. Marriage, when you see it, because it was being given as two different possibilities. Whereas given in marriage is obviously an arranged marriage, something that you have no say in, then marriage itself is something out of your own free will, by comparison. So, or at least you had an input in it. I'm not sure it is actually free will. I think a lot being, when we say marriage, to a thought, to an idea, to another entity out there, let's say it like this, some willingly go onto a path that will connect them, that will lead them to a future, that will connect them to another possibility. Driven by, here's the thing, driven by something, greed maybe, fear, curiosity, pure curiosity. And if you are driven by a strong desire, a strong emotion, then how much is that free will? Because something is driving you. You're not fully in control, but let that be. Whichever way they arrived at that point. The point is that the rest is being given in marriage. The marriage is being arranged for them. That's the important point. And for that, you're grooming the bride. I mean, just look at the word grooming itself. Yeah? You're doing something to the bride that is according to the groom. So you're making the bride into something that will please the groom, that will serve the groom, which, if there's any feminist out there worth a salt, but now your back should be truly up. I watched this film years ago, and it was about Alexander the Great, and he was in an arranged marriage to a woman that was brought up in a very had a very strong Orthodox upbringing. And I never forget the scene the night before the wedding, yeah, that she spent with the priest. and he prepared her, you know, for the reality that was about to come. And he told her that during the wedding night, the woman would sacrifice herself to her husband because that was the will of God. Oh, bloody hell. And that's all she was told. Yeah, just get that into your head. Didn't work very well for that marriage, that is. And if she had a Christian upbringing, and here is the epitome of woman in Christianity is obviously Mary. And what is the essence of Mary when you think about it? What is the essence of Mary? Ignorance, the willingness, the desire to give, to serve, and complete belief in authority. That is the essence of Mary, and that is not what I'm saying. That is what she said about herself, and that is what she did. Yeah? That is the epitome of woman. The one that God will praise over any other. Now, again, for woman, see rational mind, see ego, see knowledge of self. Because in the Bible, those words have higher meanings, and woman is that. It is the mind, the ego, the knowledge of self that is being groomed to make way for the husband or for another reality. And also that ignorance is a very great part of that. And then you come to the grooming of children. Because if somebody is being kept spiritually as a child, which we were, for a long, long time, spiritual knowledge was suppressed by the dogma of the church. This is how it is. You are nothing. Yeah, and if you go out there at all, you know, that's all demons out there that will come for you. You're possessed. So, but again, physically, the grooming of a child is again preparing the child for a physical reality that is going to happen to it. And again, the child is being made ready in that it is being given a completely distorted view of reality, of what it is, what it should be doing, what is good. Yeah? Obviously with the groomer himself portraying himself as something loving that wants the best for the child. And if the child, you know, and everything that's been done to the child is being done out of love. And then if the child raises up against it, it's obviously an ungrateful, unloving brat. But that is, again, creating a distorted sense of right and wrong and of what the child should be itself. And you're creating that in the child until it becomes its reality. And you do not send a child out to be abused before that happened. And, well, obviously it will make it a more willing witness. You don't have to fight the child. There's another reason for it, and that is why abused children are actually so invisible. And that is because they do not cry out. They do not make a noise. They do not make it known what has been happening to them, because to them that is how it is. See, in cases where a child has been attacked, the child was unprepared. Usually in those circumstances, the child is being killed by the attacker. for the simple reason the child would tell. Yeah, it would scream blue murder. It would tell people what has happened to it because it would know that it was wrong. That is why they kill those children, so they can't tell. But a groomed child wouldn't even tell. And if it tells anybody at all, it will tell its own abuser. It will turn for help to its own abuser. It's like there's Stockholm syndrome for you. And that is what has been happening to us. So if, again, I just want to say one more time, if Greg Braden says we have not been heard in 200,000 years, oh yes, we have. We have been heard, and we have been heard badly. Just not physically. Or if there was physical abuse, again, it was made to us, look to us like the authorities or whatever was going up against evil. They did that to protect us. They hurt other human beings, burned them at the stake or whatever, but they did that to protect us from the evil. Again, we are already in a groomed state where our perception of good and bad in some people is really completely skewed with. They have no longer deep inner knowing. You know, that knowing does no longer surface. They're just thinking and saying into what they have been groomed to say and think. I had a very scary experience last night at work. When we were sitting, it's like 5 women that we are, and we're sitting, and one of them is a Jehovah's Witness. And we were talking about the Greek wildfires. And this woman's a Jehovah's Witness, she said, but in our congregation we are being told that if anything happens, we must follow authority, because that is what will save us. We shall follow the voice of authority, because they will lead us into safety. And I was shocked. I mean, there were some of us saying against it. If I see a fire coming and somebody tells me to stay put, forget it. You know, I'm going to run. But she was honestly saying, oh no, you mustn't. You must follow authority. They will tell you what to do. We are, so many of us are already in that state, deeply in that state. And we must get out of it. We must trust our own knowing again. Yeah, and so what's happening at the moment, and again, this idea that something is coming and it's bringing us great technology. I mean, some of people are already up, oh wow, look at the great technology that is coming. One thing I thought yesterday is that over the last, I don't know how, 100 years, 200 years, we were made absolutely dependent on technology. We built economics and energy. Yeah, we built a system that has now made us completely dependent on both energy and technology. And now we're being told we're running out. Yeah? Or that the technology that we're using is killing the planet, changing the climate, whatever. So we've been driven into a dependency, and now we're being told, oh, we must get out of this, preferably in the next 5 years, because otherwise the world is coming to an end. So there's the factor of fear. And yeah, the Savior is on his way. The Savior will be disclosed very soon. It's all going in the same direction, and people are looking to the skies in hope, whether they are out of religious, indoctrination, or whether they think they are in the real world and they're very realistic and we need those people, aliens, to give us what we need. We're not all the same, and that the same thing will work on us. So they're working this so many different ways, it's unreal. So everybody will get their bit that is working on them. But the whole thing is that we're looking outside ourselves for something to come and save us for one reason or another. And we are being trained to do that. The last ones are obviously the non-dual lunatics that are just doing away with the ego itself. Yeah? Which are detaching from anything they know here, because it's all not real, and floating out into space. In the end, they will make the most perfect bride, to be quite honest, because they will have made themselves a completely blank surface. They know nothing anymore. They have like wiped the hard drive completely, ready to be completely reprogrammed at some point. They've gone on out into all and they will know nothing. That's another thing about why children are actually the best subject, because their hard drive, their information has not yet been fully programmed. So they are the most... When they say you should be as children, that means you are programmable. You can be programmed. That is the most important thing about being a child. You can be programmed. Your program can be written. You can be groomed. That is, somebody writes a program for you that makes you accept the physical reality that is going to come, makes you compatible with the physical reality that is going to come, makes you something that will serve in the physical reality that is going to come. The programming comes before the physical reality. In every case, woman getting married, child being abused, Christians praying before the heavens open. I heard, there's this thing that you could argue that what causes the pain is the ego. Is there something inside of you that is working against it, and that is what is causing the pain? As long as you go with the flow, there's going to be no pain. But that is the death of self. That is the death of knowledge of self, and that's the death of your conscience. You have no more conscience, no more knowledge of good and bad according to yourself. There's another thing. And then is that the death of the soul. I was thinking about what Pope Francis said. That he fully expected that he would be the last pope. He fully expected to die. And his hope was that it wouldn't hurt. So there's full acceptance of death. And the only hope you can have is that it doesn't hurt, that it's going to be painless. And I'm wondering, he's one that's a little bit in the know. Was he actually talking about the death, the acceptance of the death of the physical body? Or was he actually accepting the death of the soul? To be reborn into something that is not us, or not born out of self-determination, but programmed by something else. And there's a thing, and that's the last thing, and that is the inevitability of it all that we are being taught. Yeah? This world will go to hell. There's no other way. It's inevitable. And the increasing urgency, it will go to hell now actually in 5 years' time or something like that. Which drives us into a complete panic. Is death, or the death of the soul, is it a necessity? Is it something that needs to happen? Does it need to happen in this way that you're being completely reprogrammed? Or can you make a few slight adjustments out of your own free will and your own understanding? And there's really where we get to cause and effect, which is really something we need to understand. The idea that this is not solid, but that it is caused by vibration, frequencies, and that we are creating those frequencies by our thoughts and emotions. And that getting us onto another frequency is changing our thoughts and the way we feel about things. Which up to now, we were in the frequency of this world. Good and bad according to this world. Again, we're being changed as in good and bad according to something else that is not of this world. And will the appearance of whatever you want to call them, gods, aliens, whatever, is that a physical process? Or are we slipping into another reality by changing our frequency, becoming of their frequency? So you have this idea of the two worlds merging at the moment. We're becoming the same, our frequencies are merging, we're becoming the same. And when we are like them, or something that is in agreement with them, we will see them. Because we have become the same frequency. In which case, if that is what reality is, in that case it is absolutely not inevitable, and it is actually very, very easily cured. We will not have to shift mountains physically, but we have to shift the way that we think and feel. Our knowledge of good and bad. That alone would put us on a different frequency, and we would close the door to this going to happen. Of course, millions, billions on this planet are actually working on opening that door rather than trying to close it, because they cannot see what they're being told. The Bible does not lie. What do we keep saying? They tell you exactly what they're doing. They're telling you exactly what is coming. It will rule over you. You need to think according to it. Otherwise it will put you under a rod of iron. You've been told all of those things. And for some reason it doesn't sink in. Anyway, I think I leave it at this. But to say that they have not affected us, they have not hurt us. I mean, for most of us, child grooming, the taking away of free will, the oppression to the ruling over completely of another sentient being, to us, that is an act of violence. Most of us would still know that as an act of violence. No, I really think we have been hurt. We have been hurt badly, and then if we are to, the only way out is to remember who we are, our truth, and stand in that will close the door. And then this possible future of those two frequency worlds merging is not going to happen. As we say, or as people say at the moment, is we're at a fork. There could be a wonderful, brilliant future, or there could be a terrible future. And most of us are being taught now, being again conditioned into thinking that the brilliant future will come if something else comes here. That is what will create, whether that is God or an alien bringing technology, doesn't matter, whatever way you think. But that will create the brilliant option. Whereas I think that is the way into destruction, and what will create the brilliant future is us being our own truth, finding ourselves without something from outside constantly telling us what we should be. I think that is what will create, when we close the door and concentrate on ourselves, that is what will create the brilliant future. But as I said, most are being conditioned to look and hope for something to come, and that is going to be the brilliant way. We're thinking back to front. I really think we're being conditioned, groomed to think back to front. Anyway, I leave it at that for today, and I talk to you again soon. Bye.